Hello, I'm Bert Oliver, and welcome to Bowie News and Views. And co-host John Rouse will introduce our guest for today.
Thank you, Bert. Nice to be here as usual, and greetings to our audience. Today we're very fortunate to have one of Bowie's premier politicians, a man of great distinction, State Senator Doug Peters, who I'm sure right now is probably looking tired because he's just finished the annual grueling General Assembly session, which certainly was a busy one. Before we get into an awful lot of what you did, and you did a lot, how about giving the voters of Bowie, the residents of Bowie, the good news about the park and planning tax rebate?
Oh, okay. We'll start off with that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me on the show. I enjoy coming and watch the show often. What happened when we went into session was that I focused a lot on assessments because that is the biggest issue the constituents have in Prince George's County, is that, you know, the market value of my home has dropped, but my taxes keep going up. And there's a couple reasons for that. The first is that the state's on a triennial system. So they divide the state into three parts and they reassess your home every year based on where you live. Well, guess what? We're in the last assessment phase. So we've had these high assessment values and we've been paying more taxes than somebody who could literally live across the street but be in a different zip code and got reassessed the year before. So as I went into that, you know, first bill I put in was that I thought we should switch to annual assessments because I thought that would be fairer. I think people are willing to pay a little bit more if their market value goes up, but when it goes down, they should correspondingly pay less. So that bill died, even though DC, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware all have annual assessments, because it would have been too much work for Department Assessments and Taxation. Of course, it would have resulted in more savings for us, but you know, that's how it goes. So as I continued down this road, I saw that Montgomery County, a home that was about $400,000 assessed value, and a home in Bowie that was $400,000, Montgomery was paying $1,200 less. And I thought to myself, how could this be? You know, because Montgomery has a higher tax rate than we do. So as I continued to dig, I realized that the park and planning tax that's applied to Montgomery and to Prince George's is offset in Montgomery by the homestead property tax credit and not in Prince George's County.
Why is that?
Well, because they just never did it.
Oh.
So as I continued to dig, I found out that a cap was necessary. So I drafted legislation to put a 10% cap on park and planning tax, and then to actually look at the assessment base in '09. And so the result was an $18 million savings for the residents of Prince George's County and Bowie this year, starting July 1st.
On the tax bills that will be coming in this year.
Right. So your bill will, you know, it'll have line items, and then it will say park and planning tax, you know, is X amount, and then there'll be a homestead property tax credit against that. So you'll see the net savings.
I bet you felt a lot of pressure from the park and planning people.
Yeah, they you know, in the beginning they were really supportive, but then I think it got a little difficult when they realized that there was going to be actually real money returned to the citizens. And so we had a little bit of a discussion about that. But at the end of the day, the governor's got a bill on his desk to sign that will actually give tax savings equal to what Montgomery's been getting for several years. And in fact, I just did a little bit of homework, and you know, Mr. Rouse, you will probably save $130 a year for the next few years, and Mr. Oliver, you'll save $190 a year for the next few years, and that's a minimum amount. So
He has a bigger house?
I took the liberty of looking up your homes, and so it's different for each person because it depends on how long you've been there, you know, that sort of thing. So I just thought I'd give you that good news.
That is nice. That is nice, and congratulations.
Thank you.
That's something meaningful finally we've seen come out of our state delegation.
Who worked with you on that bill? You had other senators?
Yeah, actually, I got all 8 senators from Prince George's to co-sponsor the bill.
That's great.
And since I serve as the Senate delegation chair, you know, it was put on the House side, and they supported the initial version of the bill. Let me say that. And then there was some discomfort when I actually put in an amendment that would have given the real $18 million savings. And so that bill died, my bill went through, and the governor said he's going to sign, my bill. So that's great.
Who on the delegate side voted for it from Prince George, or at least District 23?
Well, the first bill, okay, I don't want to get too complicated, but the first bill actually just put a tax cap on, but didn't actually adjust the assessment base, which would have said you would get $0.
Right.
Maybe 6-7 years down the road, when assessments went up and things happened, you might get a small rebate. What my intent was to give the rebate that Montgomery was doing from the very beginning. So I put a technical amendment in that would actually adjust the base to 09, and that's when the $18 million fiscal note, everybody realized that that's what it was going to be. And so when that bill went through and everybody voted on it, all of a sudden they realized, that's going to have an effect on Park and Planning. Now, Park and Planning has a $37 million reserve fund, so it didn't really, to me, seem like that was that big of a deal. They still have $19 million to play with, and if there was an encroachment on some of these park projects, which I think they were concerned about.
Except those projects have been going on for years and years, and they've never done anything.
A number of them have been delayed.
Yeah.
And you can also bond those also. Yeah. You don't need to use cash. So for me, I said, if we're going to have a couple projects delayed, I think that's worth not having or giving the constituent a tax credit.
Sure is.
So on the second bill, there was a change that they didn't like, the technical amendment that I put in, and so it came back as unfavorable on the House side. So that's kind of what happened.
Well, Bowie's Jerron Levy, I understand, did vote for it.
Jerron stood up, during the session and said she wanted to support the Senate bill because she knew that was going to provide some tax relief. And she called me and we went through the bill. So she really deserves some kudos for standing up.
And I read elsewhere somewhere that Delegate Jim Hubbard and Delegate Marvin Holmes from Bowie, who allegedly represent the citizens of this Bowie, did not go along with it.
Well, they did go along with the first bill, but the second one, I don't think they were really closely involved with it. But
well, they should have been. It affects Bowie, every homeowner in Bowie.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I think everybody will embrace the bill and sign it. So.
Sure, that's good news. So any other major bill you supported or authored?
That was one of them. I was also involved in getting a turf field for Bowie State University. I go to the graduation every year, and it's a mud pit. I mean, it's really embarrassing. These people have graduated, worked hard, and we're walking through, this football field that's all muddy because it's so big that they have to have it outside. And so I went to Chairman Curry, which is, he's from Prince George's County on Budget and Tax, and I said, look, why don't we put $500,000 in the budget for a turf field and see if the delegation will put $500,000 in. So we put it in, they matched it, and now Bowie State's going to have a turf field. And if you haven't been down to Allen Pond lately, the turf field we have down there, which, by the way, I think 80% of that was state money, that's the hottest thing going right now.
Is that right?
I mean, the high schools are playing on it. There's, and when it rains, it rains, and they're talking about building more at another one at White Marsh. So that's going to be a real positive thing for Bowie State, and they've said they'd open it up to the community as well.
I would hope so.
Well, it's been pretty busy, John. I by there a lot, and now what I call field hockey, I think they can play on that turf better.
That's right. And lacrosse.
In lacrosse, they were playing the other day, and of course soccer. But those other fields are quite popular for soccer because they've kept them up pretty good. But it's really dynamite to see it recently when there was a lot of mud on the field,
right,
and just ruined the kids to get on. It's a beautiful.
By the way, on the side, this is the only country in the world that calls football soccer. And it's football everywhere else in the world.
Well, because we already had the football, there was a different, diameter. That's why.
Just thought I'd throw that out.